All right, I thought this would be a cool video. Balkan video games were
That
different.
can overarchingly unify
I feel like Balkans would be playing stuff like CS:GO.
every group of people in the world, then that would have to be video games, as every person from the far-reaching prairies of the United States to the concrete jungles of Japan spent their childhood playing video games, and the Balkans are no exception. However, unlike much of the West and
There
developed
it is,
world,
CS:GO.
things were a bit different. During the 80s, 90s, and arguably early 2000s, when most of us were growing up in the West, one of the main video game producers for kids was Nintendo. And many of you watching from the US
Yes.
most likely have fond memories of playing Super Mario, Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, Donkey Kong, and many other classics.
I was more of a Sega
Yet,
guy myself.
in the Balkans,
What up,
this
Zayali?
wasn't the case.
How you doing?
If you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, you're aware that here we had this little thing called communism that basically deemed us as retarded for a good half of the 20th century, and essentially isolated us from the international community because our dear leaders cared more about being in a leftist book club rather than decent
Yes.
living standards, which
Yes.
impacted
We talked about Balkan history. Check it out. Yeah, I learned a lot about the communism and the bull BS that went on around this decade.
the amount of money people had to spend on essential goods such as food, clothes, and video games. As such, mainstream video games popular in the West were practically non-existent in the Balkans.
I
What's
would
more,
think
they
so.
were even seen as extreme luxuries that either only the wealthiest member of Balkan society or people with relatives abroad had. After socialism crumbled and the free market started to be embraced in the late 90s and early
capitalism.
2000s,
Let's go.
consumer-grade electronics finally started to make their way to the peninsula. But because of the significantly lower amounts of disposable income, a lot of families could only afford second-hand computers imported from Germany or PCs
Why that
with
boy
really weak
smoking?
computing power. Even so, few families even possessed one. This ultimately impacted what games became popular amongst the kids in the Balkans. A lot of games that were popular usually
Yeah, the
came
PC
pre-installed
games.
on the
Yeah.
computer, such as the
Counter-Strike,
classics
yeah.
that were disposable in the West, such as Space Cadet 3D,
Okay.
a digital
That's a good
pinball
game. I played
and
this.
Minesweeper, aka Boss-in
I didn't like this game.
However, there were others that somehow every Balkan PC magically had pre-installed on it, such as Stress Relief, which was an
Stress
app that
Relief?
allowed the player to pick a variety of tools from a hammer, chainsaw, machine gun, flamethrower, and termite hand, to name a few, and then use them to destroy the Windows XP default background. Another one was Zuma, which had graphics that resembled one of a slot machine game more than one
Yeah.
for kids, where the player took control of a frog that would spit out different
Bro, my
colored
mom would play
balls
this game.
and have to match 3 of the same color in a row of balls that were heading to a hole before they reached it and cleared the map. As technology became more widespread and video games became more popular amongst the youth, more games also started to get played. However, at this point, the availability of computers and the internet was still quite limited, so games that would be obtained were very small regarding their needs of storage space and computing power. So the way new games would be obtained was via a couple of ways. One of them involved going to a video game shop. Now, in the West, this was usually a GameStop or similar equivalent, but here,
Yeah, Best Buy.
game shops were usually integrated in a computer repair shop, which was run by some middle-aged computer nerd who would be one of the few people in town with internet
To be able
access,
to do
who
a com-
pirate
do anything
shit ton
with
of games
computers.
and then burn them on these thick CDs,
And then
which
sell
had
'em.
custom printed covers, which you could choose from a catalog lying on the counter.
Bro, in another life, if I was ever to be, well, I guess this would be like Generation X, right? That would be me, bro. I would have a computer shop. I'm the only computer shop in town. I am burning games on CDs and I'm selling them, bro. This is the dream career back then.
A lot of the time, the clerk would also provide you with a sheet of paper that had written instructions on how to crack the game as well. If your parents couldn't afford that, then one of your friends could. So then they'd give you a flash drive with the game, which was passed around school more than Riley
Yup.
Reid in a single
Yep.
shoot.
Riley
and the
Reid is
games on
crazy.
it would
Haven't
eventually
heard her
make their
name in
way onto the
years.
computers in the school's IT lab. In this time period, one of the most popular games that every single Slav watching will have an attack of nostalgia from just mentioning was Heroes 3. I don't think anybody can forget the unskippable cutscene at full
What
volume
the
you had
hell?
to sit through when you first opened the game on a
You gotta
fresh
sit through this
computer,
every
giving
time?
away your location to all IT teachers in a 10-kilometer radius. Essentially, Heroes 3 was a turn-based strategy game where you could control one of 9 factions that consisted of fantasy creatures who'd be at war against one another. To influence the outcome of battle alongside controlling your units, you could also cast spells such as Armageddon and
looks okay.
completely nuke the entire map.
Damn.
Another franchise that, alongside being popular in the Balkans,
love these
was
edits,
also
man.
popular in the West was GTA. In particular,
Hell yeah, they
GTA
play
Vice City
GTA?
and San Andreas.
Yo, let's
Like
go!
the majority of my peers, one of my earliest memories was of me and my 6-year-old cousin utilizing cheat codes we kept in a notebook to
Up,
summon
up.
a tank.
Bro, up, down, left, right, L1, R1, A, B, start. Boom!
And just rampage the
Bro, I fucked that up.
city and see how many stars we could get in GTA. I don't think anyone who played this in the Balkans as a
Bro, that's the Konami code, bro. I don't remember any GTA cheat codes. I know my cousin, he knew all of them and he got tired of like remembering them, so he wrote them down. It was like up, down, left, right, X square triangle L1 R1 something like that, bro.
kid,
If you still know the cheat codes by heart, bro, write it down in the comment section, bro. Do not cheat.
was aware that there were an actual story or campaign
Oh.
in these games. And everyone just went driving around cars like maniacs and shooting innocent bystanders. What made going around driving
That was the
by
point of
city in San
GTA, bro,
Andreas
back in the day.
and committing heinous crimes against humanity so
That's all
fun
you
was
did.
also the radio, which, oh my god, had some of the best tracks like
Out of my mind.
or which no video
Bro,
game has ever been
so
able to
good.
replicate since.
Yes.
However, it could have been made even better if at the time I had a pair of Raycon earbuds, baby! Okay, listen, I have to be
plug.
completely honest. When I
Let's
found out
hear it,
Raycon
brother.
wanted to sponsor my channel, I nearly screamed out of joy like a 13-year-old anime schoolgirl. I've
Why?
unironically always wanted to try them out, as I've
Okay.
only ever heard good things from people about them.
I wonder why. Maybe because you guys are getting fucking paid.
And that's for a good reason, because holy shit are they good.
I tell you what, though,
Okay.
folks, that's bloody nice.
The audio quality on these bad boys is impeccable. I used to
Okay.
own several 100 to 200 euro earbuds, and for much less, Raycon are at a much better level. Besides that, they also have hella useful features like noise cancellation, awareness mode, multi-point
Awareness
connectivity,
mode? So I guess awareness mode turns off the noise cancellation. That's actually really cool. That's really good. You know, I'm the type of person to always be aware of my surroundings at all times. So yeah, I'm not the person to walk around with headphones no more. I was as a kid, but not anymore.
bass boosted mode, and of course a
Bass
slick
boost?
design with an
Wow.
even better case. Since getting them, I've been using them daily, especially at my favorite bar where I'd use them while working on videos. They've been literally a game changer, and best of all, my favorite part about them is that they have a 32-hour battery life
Damn.
and a quick charge feature where just in 10 minutes you get 90 minutes of battery life.
Really?
So even with being sponsored by them, I genuinely have nothing but praise for them and highly recommend you check them out. So go and click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/ironically to get 20 to 40% off your Raycon purchase, plus free shipping. Help support the channel and at the same time get a pair of kicking earbuds. Arguably, some of the most
W-ad.
popular games were those in
Ad over.
the arcade genre, such as Chicken Invaders, where you controlled
Chicken
a spaceship
Invaders?
and were shooting chickens in space,
that
which
sounds
were
fun.
dropping eggs on you. Essentially, it was just a bootleg Space Invaders, but you could get some insane power-ups where your bullets
Ooh.
could go all over the map, which was just like
Ikaruga.
ecstasy for kids. Another one was the Moor Hunt series, which was a franchise
chicken
of a
hunting.
variety of different games that also involved chickens. You had your classic Moor Hunt where you clicked on chickens that would pop up to shoot them, but you also had Moor Hunt
Yeah, I've
Racing,
seen this one before.
which was chickens racing in go-karts. And considering none of us even knew about the existence of Mario Kart, this was the best
This
thing in the
is
entire world.
Mario Kart.
And what's funny about these games was that a lot of them
Oh.
were in German because that's where the PC came from. So, because naturally barely any of the kids spoke German, we'd all just have to instinctively learn what each button did through trial and error. And of course, we can't forget the staple arcade Balkan game, Feeding Frenzy, where the player took control of a fish and would eat other fish in an effort to get bigger and bigger while avoiding bigger fish who would look to eat you, with the final goal becoming so big you can eat a whale. Obscure platformers were also quite popular. One of such games was a 3D platformer Santa Claus in Trouble.
This looks cool.
Which, again, somehow...
I'm not gonna lie, like graphically, animation-wise, the sound design, the camera moving up whenever you do jump on a platform. This looks really good for a game made in, when is this, 2004?
90% of computers had pre-installed already. The players took control of Santa Claus and had to jump on different platforms, avoiding enemies and collecting presents. But although simple and
good.
intended for kids, this game was excruciatingly frustrating as the
Really?
controls were so painstakingly clunky, and it was an art form itself to learn to control
Damn.
them. But the main thing that made a game popular in the Balkans was if it had available Hotseat and LAN multiplayer capabilities. As I said
CS:GO.
earlier, the availability of computers was quite
Halo.
limited and not everyone could afford one. So, to play video games, a bunch of kids would gather at one friend's house who had some piece of shit toaster, and then either take turns playing a game, or all of us would use the same keyboard
control,
to control our
yeah.
own characters.
Yeah,
but some
yeah,
of the most popular multiplayer games at the time were especially real-time
Man, those were
strategy
good
games
times,
like Age of
man.
Empires and Age of Mythology, and especially Red Alert and Command and Conquer Generals, which
I've heard a lot
in no
about
way
Command and Conquer.
whatsoever could ever be published today, as they had completely non-ethnically motivated Asian and Middle Eastern factions.
China will grow larger.
But amongst them, you also had arguably the best game, Jazz Jackrabbit 2, which brings up
Jazz
so many memories of me
Jackrabbit?
and my friends
Huh?
taking control of these two rabbit brothers
Jazz
who
and Spaz,
run around
huh?
shooting turtles and monsters while traversing 2D platformers.
Whoa,
on
that's a
mission to
good
save
ground
the
pound
rabbit
animation.
princess from the evil Chud turtle who for some reason controls an army of robots and demons, and is also a demon himself. The game was so stylized with
Whoa.
unique art and sprite movements and had some killer music as well.
Air Force Ones.
But the two games that dominated Hotseat multiplayer had to be Pocket Tanks and Worms Armageddon. Both games were quite similar, where
I think
players
I've
took
played
turns
this
to
game
shoot
before.
different types of ammo at each other on a large map, and also had to strategically position
played
themselves
Worms.
not
I
to
never
get
was a
shot.
real big
Personally,
fan of
my
it,
favorite of the
though.
two was Worms, as the art style was way more cartoony, and you had a larger variety of seemingly more bizarre weapons, some of which could blow
understandable.
up you and the entirety of the map. Truly a masterpiece. As the popularity of video games started
Warcraft,
to grow,
let's
more
go.
games also started to be available.
Prince of Persia,
This
let's
came
go.
about
Oh
in
my
the version of
God.
PS2 games being adapted for the PC and then sold
Devil
in
May
grocery
Cry,
stores
okay.
on a rack near checkout. So a lot of the time, parents would buy one of these games on the way back.
Is that
home
the
for their
Balkan
kids,
dad? The uncle?
Which usually was some kind of Disney game like
Tarzan.
Tarzan, Toy Story, and Hercules, which holy shit was fun.
Huh.
Everyone I know owned Hercules, and it was genuinely one of
'Cause
the
Hercules
best
is
Disney
awesome.
games hands down.
Hell
Essentially,
yeah.
it was a mix between a beat 'em up and a platformer, which had different levels based on the movie. But the most
That's
infamous
cool.
of all the Disney games was Aladdin. And this one,
Bro, this
too,
game
was
is
a
hard as
platformer,
shit.
but the map was so confusing
It's
and filled
hard.
with enemies that it was the Dark Souls of Balkan games, with 99% of my friends claiming they never could go past the first level as kids. As
hard,
enemies
bro.
would just kill you with bullshit you had no idea how to overcome. Yet, as time progressed, the internet became more prevalent and available. As such, internet cafes started springing up all over Balkan towns. And of course, kids would flock to them in droves, ready to spend their meager lunch money on computer games. At this time, LAN and online multiplayer games really start to get popular. Of course, you can't talk about this time period without mentioning Counter-Strike 1.6.
Of course.
In every internet cafe, this was the hottest shit out there. Hordes of kids would
100%.
duke it out against one another in the famous The Dust 2 map, and that would spawn a buttload of memes like,
Door stuck.
at
Door
this time,
stuck.
League of Legends came out and instantly became a huge
League of Legends came out in 2009? Wow, I did not know that.
At this time,
I did not
League
know
of
that.
Legends came
That is
out
wild.
and instantly became a
2009?
huge hit all
Holy shit, man. Damn, this game's almost 20 years
across
old.
the Balkans. I know today that it's a behemoth of a game with a player base with not the greatest reputation. But back in the day, the game looked way more jagged and clunky and was one of the most fun things in the world to play with your friends, as no one took it as seriously and tried to make the most of their time at the internet cafe and then tell the stories of their ridiculous matches next day at school. If competitive games weren't your forte, then naturally you'd play World of Warcraft. Now, again,
I only got
know
to
this
play it
was
at a
quite
friend's house.
popular
I
in the
never
West,
owned it.
but the thing is, no one in the Balkans could afford a subscription.
Yeah,
So instead,
subscription
people
service.
played a cracked version of the game and also
Okay.
created free and cracked servers to play on, many of which would lack core features of the game, but nevertheless, it was still so much fun to just be
Hey,
able
it's
to
free,
play
bro.
the base game.
Yeah.
At this time, the internet was also introduced in the computer labs at school. So,
Yeah.
like everywhere else in the world, instead of actually learning
Do they still have computer lab at school? I feel like they have to, right? Because I remember growing up, computer lab, it was like it just came out. So they were trying to like teach us how to use the internet, and they were trying to teach us how to like join not a website, but like a little group chat thing. I remember we had that tutorial, like how to do a group chat, and I was ahead of the teacher because like he wrote down how to do it on the board. So I just logged in, and he was like, there's a like maybe a 10% chance that we're gonna run into somebody here, but let's just log in. And I was already in there, so I said, "Hey," and he was like, "Oh, there it is." He didn't know it was me. Man, I
learning how
miss
to use
being a kid,
Microsoft
bro.
Word,
Being a kid is
PowerPoint,
fun.
or the basics of Python. Instead,
A
everyone in your
beer?
class would play Flash games. Of
Yeah.
course, sites like Miniclip, Newgrounds dominated with their
Newgrounds
edgy
was
games,
big. Yeah,
with one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
most
yeah.
popular ones being Bubble Trouble. But some of the more locally recognizable sites were Freb.com and
I haven't heard of that one.
Poke.hu, where
Haven't heard of that
there
one
were
either.
more Flash games than you knew what to do with them all. A popular one because of
Yeah,
the multiplayer
Fire
was
and Ice.
Fireboy and Water Girl,
Or
which
Wire-
was a
Water Girl,
co-op
whatever.
puzzle platformer where the players had to solve puzzles to allow the others to enter different chambers in the map and collect all the gems.
This is a
but
fun
of
game.
course, although these games were great, there were
Yo, did y'all ever have Pop Tropica?
also masterpieces
Pop
such
Tropica
as
is
the
amazing.
Pilsner game where
What is
9-year-olds
this?
collected falling beer bottles while a PNG of a woman stripped, and of course, the greatest digital gem, Bošnju 2D. And yeah, those were just some of the games popular in our childhood. Let me
like
know which
Nyan
games
Cat
that
with
I
a
missed
car.
and which were your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button, and if you really did, smash the
This was
subscribe button
good.
and become a
You know what's funny? Because this channel is, of course, geared towards the Balkan community, right? Here I am, an American living in Southeast Asia, watching and enjoying as well. So and it's crazy because there's a bit of correlation because I did play Fireboy and Water Girl. I've played World of Warcraft, of course, right? But like, it's cool that there is some type of correlation between the two, and that's pretty awesome. Like even this chicken game, I've seen this chicken game before, even though I never personally played it. I've seen it around. So it's so cool, man. It's so cool. Culture exchange is always amazing. Anyways, I'm live on Twitch. I'm streaming. Come join in if you want to. Come share some more of your Balkan culture. The civilized side. I know sometimes it can get a little crazy on the Balkan side of the internet, but usually keep it chill around here. Well, till then, I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Have a good one. Bye bye.